Okay, it's 1 o'clock, and so I'm going to at least get us started, get us open. We're still waiting for a couple panelists to join, but we have a little bit of house cleaning to do at the very beginning. So hopefully by the time we're done with some of this, we'll have all of our presenters present for us. And if not, we'll hear from at least half of the organizations approved by DORA to train and certify facilitators for Colorado's new psilocybin program. So first, a few words about the Colorado Psychedelic Facilitators Cohort. My name is Tony Shawcross. I'm one of the organizers of the cohort. We're now 500 members, 500 current and aspiring psychedelic assisted therapists and facilitators who have developed this peer-led cohort where we can learn from each other, teach each other what we're each learning, practice with each other, and have this really level each one teach one peer-led organization or group for us to be supporting each other in optimizing the mental health benefits of natural medicines and psychedelics in Colorado, thanks to the laws in Proposition 122 and Senate Bill 290. So clearly our 500 members and many other people in the state of Colorado are really excited about the training programs that have been approved by DORA and the facilitation licensing that will roll out next year for those who take these programs. And so again, 8 organizations have been approved by DORA to provide this training. 4 are based in Oregon, 4 here in Colorado, to certify people for the state of Colorado to be facilitating psilocybin in the state. And yeah, we're really excited to be able to talk to them. Thank you for making time today. We'll have at least 4, hopefully 6 of the 8 organizations telling you a little bit more about their organization, what sets them apart, and helping these members of the cohort and other people interested in certification and training find which might be the right fit for them. So we'll have a 5-ish minute presentation from each of the organizations presenting today. They'll be presenting in alphabetical order. And once they've all presented, we'll open up to Q&A via the chat in Zoom and also the chat on YouTube Live. But feel free to enter in any questions, comments. We'll have someone watching your comments throughout. And so feel free to enter in any chats, questions, comments in the chat function, both in Zoom or in YouTube Live. And we'll most likely save the time at the end to have the presenters responding to those questions. So I think that covers all the house cleaning. And we did get one more of our presenters here. So hopefully we'll have at least 5 of the 8, maybe 6 of the 8 approved organizations presenting. So our first presenter is going to be Travis from Acadia. And I know Travis has a presentation. So Travis, if you'd please turn on your camera and share your slide, give a little introduction for yourself. We'd love to learn about Acadia first. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Good afternoon. And it's so exciting to have everybody here and to be invited to talk about our program. So my name is Travis Kern. I'm the lead educator for Acadia Professional Learning. We're based out of Oregon. We're in Portland. And we started this educational company in 2023, mostly as an opportunity to share and teach from our particular vantage point around psilocybin facilitation. In my day job, I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. I'm an acupuncturist and an herbalist, and I have a lot of clinical experience working with patients, which is how I got into this work. A lot of my patients had physical limitations, so they would have pain and digestive problems and things that we would get down to a point where we realized there was something else at work here, something other than just acupuncture and herbs that would be needed to really move the patient ahead. So I got into the legal facilitation space because Oregon has, sort of trailblazed that in a lot of ways. And we realized after doing some training ourselves and looking into the marketplace in Oregon that we had a particular style and point of view that we wanted to bring to the educational marketplace. So for Acadia's point of view, our whole shtick is that we want to get you what you need so that you can get to work. A lot of people have been doing this work for a long time. I mean, the fact that it's become legal doesn't mean that it hasn't been happening for a long time in underground spaces and in traditional spaces. And so we wanted to make sure that people could get the knowledge that they needed, not only if you were brand new, about how to do this with best practices. But if you've been doing it for a while, how do you operate in the legal space in particular? What's the paperwork? What are the mechanisms? What are the processes? What are the dosing regimens? Because that isn't necessarily how people are coming at it from their previous experience. So we've run 3 cohorts in Oregon at this point. We have a pretty elite group of educators with over 40 years of teaching experience between our faculty in various areas, from classic classroom teaching all the way to group dynamics, to trip sitting, to ceremony spaces. It's a pretty great group of people with a wide variety of backgrounds. And we designed our curriculum originally to be compliant with Oregon, and as Colorado came along, we made our modifications to work in Colorado as well. We designed the program to work for people of all experience levels, but there's definitely a focus on core skills necessary for legal facilitation space. So if you're coming with no experience whatsoever, you will get all of the essential pieces that you need in order to get into this field and to do the work. And if you've been doing the work for a while, some of the historical backgrounds, the ceremonial processes, those might feel a little bit old school or old hat for you. But there definitely would be important information around the legal mechanisms of paperwork, documentation, dosing structures, et cetera, that may not be part of your experience or your background. So the program really is designed to work with people from all skill and background levels. I think the thing that really separates our program is our timeline. As I said, we want to get people working in the field as quickly as possible, while also making sure that they know what they need to know in order to do this work safely and correctly and efficiently. In my experience with clinical work myself, it's very hard to feel confident in the work that you're doing until you can actually do it. And so we designed our program to run 3 nights a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, from 6 to 9 Mountain Time. It's a little bit earlier for us on the West Coast. And it's an evening structure. People are working during the day, they've got things that they need to do, but they can tune into our classes, our live classes, 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 to 9. And then there's asynchronous work as well. We know that asynchronous can sometimes be challenging for folks who are busy. And so we've designed the schedule to allow for an additional month of time after live classes have ended in order for people to be able to get their work done. So as I mentioned, we've got some really great faculty, but we're a small group. And it's one of the reasons that we're able to keep our costs relatively competitive, is because we don't have a million people that, inflate our overhead. And we were very selective about who we brought into the team. So we have myself, my wife, Marcy Addy, who's also a facilitator and the program director, Eileen and Luke. Luke's a PhD chemist, and Eileen has a master's degree in group dynamics. Interestingly enough, she did a bunch of work at Stanford, and she's been a real instrumental tool in helping us to develop our group facilitation processes in particular. I did want to mention that we worked in Oregon. Colorado is a slightly different market in terms of the coursework. You guys have 150 hours instead of 120 in Oregon, so we've expanded classes to accommodate for that. And you guys have different license types. In Oregon, there's just one, but you guys will have the regular facilitator license and a practitioner license. So that's great. A lot of people who have a therapy license will be able to get a specialized psychedelic assisted therapy license in this legal market. The real interesting piece for us is the consultation hours that Colorado added. So there's an additional requirement of 50 hours of consultation to be completed after a person's finished a course like ours. And this is new. We don't do this in Oregon. And so APL wants to make sure, Acadia Professional Learning wants to make sure you guys can get everything that you need in order to get fully licensed. But this is a new aspect for us. And so we anticipate creating a pathway for these hours, but exactly when people will meet and how often and how the groups will be organized, this is a question mark in our process. It's notable that you don't have to get this kind of consultation stuff from us or from a training program at all. You can get it from a person who's working in the field with experience. So Colorado's made some flexibility there, which I like, but it is a question mark, so to speak, in terms of that aspect of the training. I know we're keeping it tight here today, so I just want to leave you guys with some key elements for our program in particular. We run an in-person practicum in Portland. We've been doing it here. This will be our 4th time running practicum in this particular legal model with the constraints of the legal model in Portland. So we know how to do it and it works well. So we're going to continue to offer that for Colorado folks. So in-person practicum with our course is $8,000 for this upcoming cohort. But if you've got experience and you don't want to travel or can't travel and you want to use the alternative practicum tools that Colorado's created, we're fine with that too. We can support you in that model, and we've built it out, and it's slightly cheaper because you don't have the practicum costs. And then if you choose to do consultation with us, we're expecting that that'll run something around $2,000 for the 50 hours of clinical consultation. Our first class for this cohort is going to start in January on the 21st. It's going to end on March the 25th. And our practicum dates are there on the screen. You can see the 27th through the 30th in Portland. It's a 4-day intensive, our practicum, a Thursday through a Sunday, 8:30 to 6:30. It's a lot, but it's awesome. We really enjoyed it. It's got a great retreat feel, great opportunity for practitioners to bond. We've really enjoyed running those sessions. And our applications are open now. Our website is acadiaprofessional.com, and all of the information about our program and the details are laid out in the Colorado specific areas of the website. So that's the rough and dirty on the program, and I will let the next person step up.
Thanks so much, Travis. And again, if you guys have any questions for Travis and questions about Acadia, please just put them in the chat, either on the YouTube chat or the Zoom chat, however you're joining us, and we'll have a moment for a Q&A in about 40 minutes or so from now. So thank you again, Travis. This was a great overview, just what we were hoping for in this, to help people get a feel for which training program could be right for them. So next we have Austin from Ceremonia. So Austin, if you would please join, feel free to talk or share your screen and yeah, give yourself an introduction. Thank you.
Great. Hello, everybody. I'm Austin Mao. I'm the co-founder of Ceremonia. We've been an entheogenic church for over 2 years now in Colorado, and honored to be one of this group of 8 organizations to train and license other practitioners. Just a quick about Ceremonia. We have a retreat center in Arvada. We're hosting about 2 retreats a month, which is a group container, including a 3-day weekend retreat called an open program and a 6-day retreat with 3 ceremonies. We have over 240 alumni that have gone through our program with psilocybin and with ayahuasca, over 140 5-star reviews and video testimonials, and we offer 100% guarantee of a life-changing transformation for anyone that comes to our 6-day program. And so here's a little brief about our center. It's only 40 minutes from the airport. We can host up to 20 people on it. Our ceremony hall that we are actively facilitating in, and our workshop room. So something that really sets us apart from other organizations and that we hope to carry forward to the practitioners that we will be training is this process of inside out. So I just spoke at TEDx Boulder about 3 weeks ago and shared this process that we believe in teaching our participants skills that they practice to build their capacity to hold themselves, to be with what is in their experience more, okay? And these same skills are the ones that they learn sort of in a miniature version in experiential workshops as participants. We will teach in a breadth of work in the didactic curriculum, and they're based on 6 frameworks. These frameworks are mindfulness via acceptance and commitment therapy, so learning how to meditate and how to apply awareness and attention, somatic experiencing, which is feeling the feelings in our body, the map of consciousness by David Hawkins, which is a psychospiritual model, circling, which is a group relational model that is based on Gestalt, internal family systems, which is parts work, and then finally neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And what we've found is that this protocol that we've developed so that people are experiencing their own self-empowerment and then sharing that in connection in community creates a far more effective psychedelic experience for participants and makes the load a lot easier on practitioners because the individuals that are going through the experience have their own tools to meet themselves where they're at. One of the extraordinary benefits that we'll be offering is that we're able to offer real practicums and immediate practice, right? And so we are creating a program whereby we're launching a microdose coaching program, which consumers are going to be able to go through. Then an integration coach certification. And once someone becomes certified as a coach, they are actually coaching the people that are the consumers that are going through the microdose coaching, and then the practitioner training, which is what we're talking about here. And the way that it's going to work is that it's for each of these three aspects, right? So 3 months of microdose coaching, 3 months of integration coach certification, and 3 months of practitioner training, which means that over the course of 9 months, our students are actually getting real world practice in working with participants on integration, on working with microdosing, and then finally on serving medicine. So again, we're one of the leading centers in the United States, facilitating 20 to 40 actual participants per month, with over the last 2 years in over 34 retreats. And we have a 96% success rate of people saying they have a life-changing transformation. And we believe that practicums are the most important aspect of this work. And so to that end, we are going to have 2 practicums available for our students. The first is our 3-day open journey, where you come as a participant mixed with other participants, and you get to fully experience the retreat and the ceremony yourself. And then a 6-day awaken as staff, where you are going to be facilitating within 3 ceremonies. And we're discounting 30% off our current pricing. Now, after that, you may be invited back to come at increasing discounts so that we could really offer unlimited practicums. And one of the core benefits of working with Ceremonia is because we run 2 retreats a month right now, that we expect to grow to 3 retreats a month or 4 retreats a month starting in 2025, you're going to be able to come at any time and get real world practice with real world participants, not just other students. We're also like #1 search result on Google for SEO. So we're just getting everybody. We are planning on announcing a wait list by the end of October and start date by the end of December. And the first practicums will be available starting in January, where you can come as a participant. Our pricing is going to be $7,777 for a 9-month didactic, which is going to include the microdose coaching and certification as an integration coach. $5,888 for 2 practicums. And then if you sign up via a waitlist, which you can do at ceremoniacircle.org, you'll get it for $12,222 as a guarantee. And so you can join the newsletter at ceremoniacircle.org, find out more information about us, and we'll be announcing to our list sometime by the end of October. Thank you so much. Oh, and just one last thing. Unfortunately, I can't stay for the Q&A, but please feel free to sign up on our website and email us. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Austin. Thanks for teaching us about Ceremonia. And again, if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Some of our other panelists may be able to answer them, or we can forward them on to Austin and help you get in touch with him. So next we have Shannon Hughes from Elemental. Thanks for joining us, Shannon.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm going to share my screen also. Hopefully that is viewable. Good.
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Shannon Hughes. I'm program director for Elemental Psychedelics. And yeah, we're excited to be here. I love the sort of peer-led, community-held model of medicine work and sitting with medicine work. And, that's something that Dory and I, my colleague Dory, who is the co-founder of Elemental, really wanted to replicate as best as we could as a small grassroots program ourselves that are pretty embedded in the Colorado community. I've been, my background is in social work and as an academic researcher educator, but I've also been part of just helping build the Colorado community of practitioners for a long time now, many years, with No Act Society and other initiatives that we've been a part of here in Colorado. And Dory, my partner, is a really skilled clinician who has deep relationship with mushroom and other psychoactive medicines for many years. And so this was just a a vision that we are birthing and under the umbrella of Elemental to build pathways for practitioners, and especially something that's really contained and held in community and like bridges the clinical worlds with psychospiritual exploration, and a deep sense of like responsibility to custodianship for both, the people we work with, to the social movements that this work is part of, to the land we reside on. We really wanted to offer a program that just felt for us really grounded, really connected to community, and really focused on developing a deep personal relationship with the medicine. And so here's like a few highlights on our program. I mean, I think big picture, we really want to support students or participants and like integrating all of who you are into solid ground to create your unique offering to the communities and to the people that you serve. And it's really easy because we feel this pressure to sort of like, move fast and, not miss out on something, and it's all happening so quickly. And so we're really trying to embody that sense of like that slowing down and really like being with the work and sitting with the medicine and like, letting our path sort of unfold and be guided, in whatever time that takes. And so really integrating all of who we are. And that means our shadow work, our light work, our ability to embrace paradox, our ability to really be in awe of the capital M mystery that is this work, and really honor like the animist forces that natural medicine work is held within. So that's kind of like part of our philosophy. And then within all of that, within the structure of safety, so clear agreements, boundaries, communication, like creating really safe physical and energetic containers for people. Experiential education, so we have a high proportion of in-person hours, experiential opportunities to sit with medicine. We will have practice, like supervised practice built into that also, and like held within a community of support. And so, our program is, and we've got some great guest lecturers that I'm really excited about. I don't know if anybody listens to the Emerald podcast with Josh Shree. If you don't, start listening to the Emerald podcast. You will love it. And Josh Shree is coming to give a guest lecture in our program. We are just absolutely over the moon about that, along with a number of other folks who we just have been teachers for us. And that is really exciting. We do have a online info session coming up on the 23rd and 23. So if you want to ask questions of us specifically, Dora and I will both be on this call. So feel free to register for that on our website. But just to give you a quick sense, we do have, our spring, we're in our fall program right now. Our spring program starts in March. The full 150 hours will run March to August. With some practice retreats, some weekly live calls. Here, you could pause the recording and look at the dates if you like, and this will also be on our website shortly. And then we have an accelerated legacy program that will run about 6 weeks. This is our plan right now, to launch that in March, and would run through end of April, would include the 25-hour module on ethics and rules that's required for most people, even if you're accelerated or have lots of practice experience behind you, plus just an in-person practice retreat where we're going to kind of go over any of the other objectives that are specific to mushroom work. So for folks who maybe are match trained with MDMA or have been practicing with ketamine for a long time, we'll kind of have that extra 25 hours for a total of 50 for accelerated and legacy track, and about a 6-week program. So we're really trying to create some pathways that work for people who are coming with different backgrounds and different levels of experience. So we'll talk more about that on our info session that's coming up in a couple of weeks. And we'll have applications open for spring, both for the full 150-hour program and for the legacy and accelerated program. Applications will open in early November, and you'll kind of see, the important dates here to get us through the launch in March. So please visit our website. We are going to have supervised practice. We are going to do consultation. I won't spend time on that right now, but you're welcome to reach out to us if you have any questions, and of course, join that info call coming up on the 23rd. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to everybody, and appreciate hearing about all the wonderful programs that are being created and developed here for us.
Thanks so much, Shannon. I appreciate it. Again, if you guys have questions for Shannon, we'll have a Q&A in just a few minutes, so please feel free to put them into the chat, either on Zoom or YouTube, and Spencer will grab those, and we can chat with Shannon about any questions you have in just a few moments. So next we have Nate from InnerTrek. Nate, are you able to turn your camera on?
Yes, well, it says unable to start video. The host has stopped it. Oh, the host says start my video. Hey, thanks, Tony.
Great, thanks.
Wow, y'all. Thanks for putting this on. Very cool to just kind of reiterate the last few folks that y'all are coming together and creating these opportunities to learn about the schools and do Q&A. Just much appreciation for just this insight into the work to support, not just folks considering being, getting trained and operating this framework, but also the schools and really all of the future clients, I guess is the word you would use in the Oregon model and in Colorado, but all the future folks who will work with psychedelic medicine this way. So gratitude. Who is Nate? So I am born and raised in Portland, Oregon. Hope to die here if I'm lucky. It's the current plan. And I guess I will just say briefly, because I think it's part of why the school I've built with a good friend now exists, which we never really intended to do, but it's just been part of this project. So as way of background, I'll just note that I was pretty angry as a kid. I've come to terms with, or realized aspects of poverty and learning what I would now call systems issues and systemic issues. And that led to my rebellion. My rebellion was to say, screw it, I'm graduating college or graduating high school, and even more kind of against the grain, at least in that community. The culture I was in at that time was to go to college. U of O, University of Oregon, took a chance on me. Fast forward, I spent about a decade trying to be of service in public service, working, to work on issues that I guess made me angry, or increasingly made me feel honored to be able to work on them. So about a decade of work in the Oregon legislature and campaigns and the Portland mayor's office, and did some very fun stuff. At least now in retrospect, helped create a 2-year community college plan for folks who are low in our income in Oregon, that's been modeled around the country now, and passed a lot of renter protections and some decarbonization policy. And fast forwarding, I was extremely burnt out in the mayor's office. Let's see, I guess that was 2018, self-destructing, didn't realize that I was. And then my good friend, my non-biological brother, introduced me to mushrooms, pretty much reoriented me. Was able to, hear these stories, able to make eye contact again with my mom, and became open to the wisdom of my now wife on multiple fronts: therapy, getting a dog. And it was so wild to me that I just didn't understand that this was an opportunity. This kind of teacher was an opportunity to me, that I thought, this ballot measure or this policy to bring psychedelics in a legal model in Oregon has no chance. But these two folks who ran a DV group, court-mandated DV group called InnerTrek, I knew that they wanted to pass something somehow. And so I tracked down Tom and Cherie's number, and they were very generous and allowed some young, fast-talking dude who's never left Portland to help them build a campaign and a structure for what became a ballot measure, which I love. Oregon has done a lot of fun things, what I think are fun first, including creating the ballot measure process back in the day in response to a non-responsive legislature and kind of ingrained interests. So I love that vehicle for change. And so they were very kind and allowed me to help with the structure of what became ballot measure 109 and kind of build a team. And then I kind of stepped away. Fast forward, we passed the thing along with decriminalization. We rewrote the measure to better pair with what became measure 110 to make what I think should happen always, which is protect the non-regulated access to whether it was cannabis, which we did back in the day, with being the first state to decriminalize cannabis, et cetera, or psychedelics. There should be multiple pathways. We should allow it to emerge as at once, just the same way that we teach our students and talk about engaging with things that come up during a journey. So I mentioned all this to say, soon after the campaign passed, Cherie had heart issues for her whole life, and we didn't expect it, but she passed away a few weeks after the campaign passed. My friend who introduced me to mushrooms, who'd struggled on and off, accidentally passed away from an overdose. And it made me then process my brother, who had died a couple of years prior, and I just went back to work in the mayor's office. And it was so disorienting, also for Tom, that there felt like a clear calling to try to turn the grief into something. And so partnered with my brother, now Tom, non-biological brother, who with Cherie created this model, which Colorado has improved on and replicated, and Massachusetts will almost certainly pass later this year, and 25 other states are currently considering some version of what I self-centeredly call the Oregon model, or state-regulated model. And we got to work. We helped build the 2-year advisory board and first set of rules, which are flawed in many ways, but endemic to being in the 53rd year of the war on drugs and all the things that come with that, not having insurance costs or insurance reimbursements. And then we knew we wanted to also create a school if we could, a foundation in Cherie's honor, and a conference or a trade association. So we created Horizons Northwest, worked with the folks that now put on Psychedelic Science in Denver, put on Horizons in New York, a foundation where we've raised about $500,000 and given it out to people in the form of scholarships for training and access. And then separately, our school, InnerTrek. We've built InnerTrek, which I know is the reason I'm here to talk about it, but you can find everything I would say in this talk on our website, InnerTrek.org. So I just thought I would share a bit about the origins and what informs our work and our team. And that's to say, I had no interest in starting another organization. I don't really like being what someone would call a serial entrepreneur, but I just found that it is more effective, at least in my mind, than the work that I was able to do in government. And mushrooms and psychedelics have been so transformative that I can't help, I keep it under wraps, but I can't help but be at least an internal evangelist that the consciousness change and culture change is helping accelerate a lot of, movement towards reducing suffering and changing the Overton window and accelerating the path to, single payer healthcare, et cetera. So we're keeping this project going. We keep the school going. We've had 3 cohorts so far. We've graduated several hundred folks around the country and the world, mostly in the Pacific Northwest, through our school. We're the first licensed school in Oregon, not for ego, but because I was banging my head against the wall for a year and a half with the DOJ and the Department of Education and the Oregon Health Authority to create a legal pathway to have government licensed schools. So we went through that process and ended up being the first as a result, which was not the goal. And that helped create some structure for this ecosystem to take off in Oregon. And it was very nice working with a lot of the folks in Colorado, some people on this call, on what became the Natural Medicine Health Act. And if you want to ask any questions, because I didn't talk a bunch about the school, I'll be here for the Q&A. You can find more at innertrek.org. And I just would say it is one last note, we have a legacy pathway. We're accepting applications now. It's $2,900, I think. We have a full training program that's now 7 months long that graduates will be able to be licensed in Oregon and Colorado. That's about $10K. And we've got a rockstar crew of internal educators, guest educators, and a significant student body, in my opinion, which is between 50 and 95 students. And the reason for that, pros and cons, is that I really wanted to try to strike that balance between, I guess I view everything almost on a spectrum of access to safety. I know that's not a perfect framework, but I wanted it to not be so expensive for folks that it would also jeopardize our ability to achieve part of our mission and not be financially sustainable, and not also be so inexpensive that we couldn't actually offer the level of education that we want to. And so we have small groups that go down to as small as 9, and they meet frequently as in home groups, with a larger class that's broken up into cohorts based on our intensive days. And the whole goal is to try to maintain financial sustainability, pass along what simply I would call as an economy of scale in the form of having ideally as low of a tuition as possible for what we offer. And then without going into the red, we repatriate any tuition that's not needed to run a subsequent program back in the form of scholarships. And we've offered, I don't know, 50 plus scholarships since we were licensed, maybe a bit more than that, constituting 100, maybe a couple $100,000. And so, yeah, we're balling on a budget. We got started with the 50K grant from, we repaid from Dr. Bronner's to build all these organizations so I could leave family business my brother and I started and not go back to politics. And that's it. You know, we're local, homegrown, and now curious if we can be supportive in Colorado and with the state regulated model, which I deeply believe in and care about. And I personally believe it's how tens of millions of Americans will find psychedelic healthcare in the coming decades as insurance reimbursements come online. All right, that was longer than 5 minutes, maybe. I didn't even show my screen. I had a whole slide deck, but there you go. But sorry, Tony.
No, thank you so much, Nate. We definitely appreciate learning about you and about the organization InnerTrek. So again, yeah, if you have questions for Nate about InnerTrek, feel free to enter them in the comments on Zoom or on YouTube. We'll get back to them after we hear from our last presenter, which is Dr. Diana Quinn from Naropa.
Hi there. Thanks again for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So got some slides here. Go ahead and launch. Okay, so I'm speaking with you today about the Naropa Center for Psychedelic Studies Psilocybin Facilitator Training Certificate Program. Our program is a 6-month virtual learning program that's grounded in a healing justice framework. Healing justice is a framework that's informed by liberatory harm reduction and other social justice movements, which is a framework aimed at intervening on and responding to the impacts of trauma on bodies, hearts, minds, and spirits and communities, and seeks to demystify healing and also to empower communities to engage in peer support, harm reduction, and other forms of community care. So that's kind of the framework and orientation of our program that's compliant with state regulatory models in both Oregon and Colorado. It is a mentorship, apprenticeship-based training that emphasizes small group instruction. So we have classes as well as small groups where active learning takes place under the supervision of experienced facilitators. It's a hybrid instructional model with both live classes as well as asynchronous content. And there are reflection activities, knowledge checks, and assessments with feedback from the pod group mentor throughout. So this is our educational team. It's a really phenomenal team. I'm honored to be the program director of this program. My work in the Center for Psychedelic Studies as director of clinical education also covers supporting our psychedelic assisted therapy training program, which is designed predominantly for clinicians, where the psilocybin facilitator program is geared both for clinicians planning to operate in Colorado under the clinical facilitator CoFounder tier of licensure or the general facilitation license. And so both of our training programs are fully accredited through both OHA in Oregon and NMHA in Colorado. As some of my colleagues and friends here who work in Oregon may know, I have some background working in Oregon as well since 2020 under OHA, and was formerly the Director of Education with the Alma Institute. Now the CORA Center, which is a service center that operates in Portland, where we offer practicum for our Oregon-based trainees. So some of my colleagues here also work in Oregon as well. Esteban Orozco and Sayer Sanaya, who's one of the co-founders of the CORA Center. I'm also joined by the Assistant Director of Community Care from our center, Victor Cabral. We have also Wilhelmina De Castro, who's the Executive Director of Prati and has extensive work in the psychedelic space, including their own training program for LGBTQ individuals with ketamine called Integrative. Candace Oglesby, who has extensive experience and trains in a number of different psychedelic training programs, and Alessandra Santos Pai, who is a core faculty along with Sayer and Victor in our Center for Psychedelic Studies. And those folks operate between both our PAT certificate training and our Psilocybin facilitator training. So between our team, we've got just decades of experience doing this work. Myself, I have over 30-year relationship with mushroom medicine, as well as having had the honor to apprentice and learn from a number of maestros and curanderos in various traditions. And we do incorporate some indigenous perspectives directly in our training program. So both Osiris Garcia Cerqueda and Inti Garcia Flores are both Mazatec lineage carriers that offer education to our facilitation and trainees in our psilocybin program, and orient us to and really help to ground the context of this medicine and this work in the unbroken 5,000 plus year lineage of the Mazatec healing tradition. So this is just a brief overview of our program. We have a 6-month program that's divided into modules. The first is the foundation with the traditional roots, indigenous origins of working with this medicine. We also ground in the healing justice and health equity frameworks. Module 2 really orients us with presence, ethics, harm reduction, and boundaries. As a contemplative university, Naropa has a 50-year history of training therapists, counselors, and other students and faculty in a contemplative model. So mindfulness-based, contemplative practice and compassion-based somatic work is deeply ingrained in all of our trainings. Module 3 brings in trauma-informed care, establishing therapeutic rapport, overview of intake and screening within the state regulatory model with the scope of practice for psilocybin facilitators. Then in Module 4, getting into the preparation work and developing a safety plan. We have really deep focus on harm reduction and safety in our program. Module 5 gets deeply into the administration work, including navigating challenging experiences. And then with Module 6, we go more deeply into integration and explore group work as well. So we run 2 programs a year for the psilocybin facilitation training program. We are currently midway through running our first cohort right now. We also are in the process of training our 3rd cohort in our psychedelic assisted therapy certificate training. Again, they will also be eligible for the licensure as psilocybin facilitators in both Colorado and Oregon. So we've been doing this for quite a while. And within the Colorado model and Oregon model, we're through training the 2nd cohort launching in January. So the application process opens later this month. We offer this program over a 6-month period with weekly live class, bi-monthly 2-hour small pod groups that meet in a variety of times, either day or evening. And then additionally, there's a handful of hours every week of independent work, which includes the asynchronous content as well as assignments and various other engagements. So our program tuition for our upcoming program is $7,000, which doesn't include the practicum, and there are a number of options that we'll be offering for practicum. We offer extensive scholarships, particularly for underrepresented and historically excluded trainees in our program. In 2024, we offered over $200,000 worth of scholarships in both our psychedelic assisted therapy training program and the psilocybin training. And we intend to continue offering robust scholarship opportunities. For Native American, Indigenous, and First Nations people, we offer full ride scholarships in both of our programs. We also offer scholarships for people of the global majority, also known as people of color or BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, as well as Two-Spirit, LGBTQIA folks, veterans and active military service individuals, people with disabilities, and those with socioeconomic accessibility needs. So you can find out more about that on our website. So as I mentioned, we will be offering a number of different practicum opportunities for our upcoming programs. We intend to be offering our own Naropa Center for Psychedelic Studies clinic and have a plan to be offering our own practicum in 2025. So we're in process to get that underway. In addition, we continue to offer Oregon-based practicum through the Cora Center with these 3 dates in approximate time periods, April, October, and December of 2025 through the Cora Center in Portland. In addition, we will in 2025 be offering an accelerated learning course to cover the 25-hour ethics requirement, as well as offering consultation, group consultation to meet the Colorado 50-hour requirement, as well as in 2026, the 20-hour annual continuing education requirement that psilocybin facilitators will need. So we really intend to offer a very comprehensive, multi-tiered training opportunity and development of community of practice with our programs and our trainees, with apprenticeship, practicum consultation, continuing ed, peer support, and ongoing mentorship. So that concludes my remarks. I look forward to answering any further questions that folks may have in the Q&A. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Quinn. Yeah, it's been great to have all of you guys present. There are 3 more organizations so far that are approved by DORA to offer this training. For those of you watching this on delay in YouTube, we'll have links to all 8 of the organizations and more if they get approved by DORA in the description section. So now we want to move to the Q&A section. We have a few questions that have come in, and Spencer will feed those to me, I hope. And we had one question about rules around licensing concerning cultivation for the program. I know that cultivation is a whole different section of licensing from DORA, but if anybody wants to speak to that, I'd love to hear it. You're all welcome to turn on your cameras, because I think most of these questions we're going to spread across the whole group. And so if anyone wants to speak to that, they can. I'm going to introduce another question to, because I want to stay on the focus of facilitation licensing, which is, I think a lot of practitioners, facilitators deal with an issue that I imagine most of you have also dealt with in your institutions, which is this balance between like commercialization of this work and the kind of like more grassroots, traditional, independent community side of the work. And as someone who started a large nonprofit myself and now runs this cohort, it feels to me like kind of a constant kind of balance or juggle between needing to like have the resources to make the system work for everyone and like, I guess kind of like keeping it real. Somehow those things don't seem always aligned for me, at least. So I'd love to hear any of your guys' perspectives on that. And then if you want to address the question about cultivation, please as well. And I'm not going to call on people, just feel free to jump in and we'll talk over each other and work it out. Although people are raising hands, but just jump in, Dr. Quinn.
I did want to just jump in over someone. But I think that this question about the commercialization and, the cost, as contrasted with accessibility. I think, Nate, you kind of spoke to this when you mentioned sustainability and the need to, really kind of tailor a high quality training program that is accessible and as affordable as possible while also being sustainable. And even with a small team, we here at Naropa, we have a highly diverse training team, and we really we emphasize just essentially most of our costs go toward compensating our training team, so it's not really, we keep the cost as low as possible, and similar to what Nate mentioned, roll any surplus, that we can over into scholarships for accessibility, but the other, kind of point that question made me think of was just about the general commodification of the sacred medicines in the first place, and just the ways in which state regulatory models and even the medical model and the way that much of the so-called psychedelic renaissance is unfolding does have that inherent element. And, I think that many of us here, I know, grapple really deeply with that and our resistance to it, and really try to shape a learning environment to decommodify and really, kind of deeply orient to the sacred, as well as, maintain the accessibility of training as much as possible. That's certainly our motive at NCPS.
Thanks. Anyone else want to chime in on that topic?
I'll add a little bit to it. I think one of the nice improvements in the Colorado model actually has to do with the decoupling of the delivery of services from service centers. In Oregon, there's no place that if you're going to deliver legal psilocybin services, it has to happen within a service center, which has a lot of advantages, right? I mean, it's a safe space, it's organized, it's clean, it's inspected. And for a lot of, psychedelically naive users, which many of our clients are, they like it, right? They like to go to a special place that's organized and put together. But that intrinsically builds in more cost because, of course, that service center also has to keep the doors open, also has to pay the licensing fees. Colorado has that option in healing centers, but it's not mandated. And I think that's going to be a really nice thing to see if they're able to maintain that, where licensed facilitators will be able to work in spaces other than healing centers. There's some complexity around how do people get the mushrooms? You can't sell them. Where do you get them from? So there's definitely some hoops, right, that people will have to walk through. But that initial decoupling, I think, will address some of the cost issue that we've been facing in Oregon. And it's really exciting to see. Because as Nate said, the first round of rules, the great thing about being first is that you're doing the work first, but then it also means that you maybe don't have the most perfected model because everyone can learn from what didn't work in ours. And so it's really great to see Colorado kind of adapt in some really positive ways that I think will help manage costs for clients over time.
Yeah, the great thing about being first is doing your best, knowing it's going to be flawed, and then just getting attacked mercilessly and just trying to regulate and say, first drafts of everything are never perfect, including first draft of me as a person. Yeah, no, I well said, both of you. I didn't actually have anything to say. I just wanted to make a joke and be vulnerable about how it gets under my skin. I would just note, I really don't like this truth, which is when things are valuable under this pretty brutal and hopefully evolving soon, maybe currently, form of capitalism, things that are valuable become commodified. Like that is now at least a fact that's taught in economics. And that's why I think it's extremely important that when we pass state regulated models, like we have done in these two states, that we also protect people's ability to grow, gift, gather without having to consult the government. And it takes a type of privilege to be interested and able to, in all the rules, to be in the underground because of the founding of our country, systemic racism, psychological safety too, for people who have a lot of privilege and just are not interested in breaking the laws or can't. And so I see all of the pathways as being really important. And I think if we continue to keep them open and not forget about the ability to just what is totally authentic, we know it, which is we shouldn't have to consult someone to heal or recreate or whatever. And we should have legal pathways for folks to have a different type of care. I also, blessed to whoever puts in the tens of millions of bucks to get MDMA over the line. I think in 2 years, hopefully they can get that done. Again, that pathway is great too, because it'll have a bunch of great research. So last thing I'll note is most businesses are gone in 2 years. I'm shocked that there actually seems to be a difference in the world of psychedelics, because I think people care so much, because there's less of a focus on the profit model, that people are in it for the mission and it's around longer. And that means that if we want to strike that balance, to your point, Diana and Travis, I'm not shy, even though sometimes it can sound transactional, about the need to think really seriously about a financial business model. Otherwise, people go away. The organization goes away, which isn't great for anybody, especially if you're a graduate from it. If you want to think about it, we end up just passing too much of the cost to the people, and then you can only have a certain type of students. And if we're not careful, people are making a killing instead of a living. And I'm guessing most of us, are in that situation. And so building a culture of collaboration over competition, like what this is doing, and encouragement to repatriate proceeds in the form of scholarships, et cetera. I don't know. I think we're kind of doing it, and it's going to be corrupted in some way by the profit incentive. It just happens, in my opinion. And yeah, I bet, like all of us, almost every dollar we spend goes back to staff and teachers. And we don't have volunteers, except for people who really want to be volunteers. So if someone's getting rich in this world, I'm curious how and why, but I just don't think it's happening. And in the meantime, it's also really challenging because we don't have insurance reimbursements yet for what I would describe as psychedelic healthcare. But that is, in my opinion, an inevitability. And that will also take some of the financial pressure off and make values be sacrificed less when the going gets tough. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm stopping.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we do have quite a few questions coming in from the participants. I want to try and hit as many of them as possible. And Shannon, if you're willing to, maybe try and take this one. There's a question saying, it's unclear for me, do each of the organizations offer courses that would qualify us for either clinical and or non-clinical facilitator licensing? Maybe you could start with talking about elemental for that question.
Yeah, clinical or non-clinical. Yeah, the Colorado law is written so that you can have you don't have to have necessarily a clinical background to get your National Medicine Facilitator license. So how our program is set up, well, under DORA rules, it's one training requirement. It's 150-hour training requirement, unless you're accelerated or legacy or fit some other category. But if you need like the full training requirements, it's 150 hours, whether you're clinical or non-clinical, whatever. And I think different programs might have ways they specialize. Like we accept folks from all backgrounds, and you're going to be sort of mixed in a cohort. So our cohorts are about 25 people. This current cohort, I think maybe 14 or 15, maybe 15 are clinical, like therapists, mostly a couple of prescribers, physicians. And then we have the rest of the cohorts non-clinical. So end-of-life doula, registered nurse, a physical therapist, a yoga instructor. And so for a lot of the content, it's, you're kind of together. And then we have study groups where that are divided by clinical or non-clinical, so that you can get the specialization you need within your scope of practice, which is going to be, maybe a little bit different. And so I think some programs might be handling that similarly, or some programs might be specializing just, for folks that have clinical backgrounds. But it's one training requirement no matter what. And you're allowed to have a secondary license as an LPC or LSW or an MD. You're allowed to operate under that license, as well as hold simultaneously your facilitator's license. But no matter what, you need that 150-hour of education, and those learning modules aren't different based off of whether you're clinical or non-clinical, but programs can kind of offer that little bit of specialization based off of, the scope that you're going to be working within. Is that accurate? Does anybody else have something to add?
No, you killed it there, Shannon. That's perfect. Yeah, it's one program. If you have another license, another clinical license, you can apply for a clinical facilitator license if you already have that credential from another training program, but the hours are the same. So yeah.
Thank you. We have another quick question about if there's a distinction between your training programs and how you would address people who are going to be working in healing centers versus micro healing centers. Anyone have any response to that question?
I can jump in.
Shannon, jump.
Yeah, I mean the difference, the micro healing center tier is the healing center is the physical location, right? And so the micro tier is just for a physical location that's storing less than 750 milligrams of psilocin, or that. So there, if you're storing less than 750 milligrams on site at any one time, then you can apply for a micro healing center license for that physical location, which sort of reduces the security requirements. You just have to have it sort of in a locked area with a camera or video surveillance on that locked area. Could be a locked cabinet, a locked safe, while there's product there on site. And then if you're storing more than that amount, then you would need a regular healing center license tier. And that's the only difference. So that's not going to impact like your facilitator license or the training program, or that's just about the physical location that's going to be storing the licensed psilocybin product. Travis, you were going to say something also.
No, you knocked it out of the park again, Shannon. That's it. Yeah, it's an interesting Colorado distinction. We don't have that distinction in Oregon. It's just service center is a service center is a service center. But I think it was a way to try and help reduce the cost to build out a service center if you're in a smaller model. But the services being provided, in my understanding at least, is the same.
Yeah, we did a lot of advocacy here in Colorado to try to support small private practitioners who maybe have, you're already a therapist, or you're already, an energy practitioner, and you have a caseload and you have an office, and, how can we support those folks and to be able to integrate this tool of natural medicine work into their practice without putting, all of these burdens on them to have like full surveillance system around the whole building and all this kind of stuff, which was originally what was being asked for practitioners to do. And we did a lot of advocacy happen to try to get these sort of tiered out. If you're just like a small solo practitioner, how can we make this accessible to you and the clients you work with?
I think that's such great work, because I myself practice that way. Like, my primary job is not psilocybin facilitation. It's a supplemental to what I do in the day. And most of our students are that way too. They're therapists and social workers, and they want to do 6 of these a year, or 4 of them a year. And so having easier access to lower cost options for delivery is really great. So kudos, Colorado.
Yeah, well done, Shannon and team.
Great.
Can I put one quick note, Tony? I know I talked too much earlier, but I just would say in Oregon, when and this piece has been replicated because it's hard to get across the line in terms of pulling. We said these offices are funded by the license fees and a small tax on the medicine, mushrooms, whatever word people want to use, psilocybin producing mushrooms, I call it medicine. That then leads these departments to do an algorithm of how much they charge for Microsoft Suite from Department of Regulating Agencies and staff, and they come up with these license fees. And so they are completely unreasonable, in my opinion, a victim, like so much of the long shadow of the war on drugs and prohibition. And so to the degree that anybody is interested, especially graduates, and we're building towards this in Oregon, these offices should be funded by the general fund. It's 0.001% of the state budget. All of the research in Oregon shows that we've done in this modality, not in the work regulated model, shows that this is consistently more effective for some things, some formal diagnoses, if we have to take that path, unfortunately, than the leading treatment. And Oregon spends something like $3 billion related to alcohol and addiction related recovery. And so the state needs a little more data, but these license fees should be 20x'd, in terms of reduced in the coming years. And if they're not, that means I think the advocacy isn't happening. And so the fees are a victim of politics and what the public would endure. And then in Oregon, we copy and pasted from Measure 91, illegal cannabis, 1,000 feet away from schools. They have to be at centers, because that's what people needed to be like, okay, I still think this might scramble my brains, drugs, all the DARE commercials, but at least it's going to be at a low security prison type center far away from the school. So what we also need to do is allow for this to be a take home, not at centers, but that's, with due time. So all of this stuff just totally fixable and usually not like actually logical. And so people, I think, are right to be upset and to yell at me at times, or whoever. But I just would say it's all very fixable.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right, we've got a little less than 10 minutes left, so we're going to try and do a couple quick questions again from the audience. And this is one that hopefully all of you can answer, and just with a pretty quick estimate. It says, roughly what percentage of each of your education programs are in person versus virtual? Please just jump in.
I'll go first. All of our didactic is virtual. So the 150 hours of the program is virtual. So half of that is delivered live in classes. The other half is asynchronous. And then we do 40 hours of in-person practicum.
And our program at Naropa Center for Psychedelic Studies is exactly like what Travis just described. All of the didactic, 75 hours of learning with live instruction is over Zoom virtually. The other 75 hours is delivered online, via a learning platform. And then the 40-hour practicum will be in person. And then the 50 hours of consultation will offer likely both in person and virtual.
Thank you. Shannon, Nate, a rough
Yeah,
estimate?
I'll jump in. Ours is about half in person, about half the hours, 75 hours are in person at practice retreats. And small groups. Our practice retreats are only about 10 people. The whole cohort's about 25. And so half of it's online through the weekly live calls plus asynchronous content on a learning platform. And then you come to your choice of a couple different practice retreats. We have like different dates and weekends for that. And that's not, and then the supervised practice we'll have in person starting in the spring for practicum hours.
Of course, thank you. And Nate?
Beautiful work, everybody. Legacy program is all in person. It's intensive in Longmont, right outside of Boulder, as I understand it. Been there briefly. And then the practicum is all in person. We're not doing Zoom practicums. Sorry, everybody. And it's funny, people want to do Zoom practicums. I'm like, why? And then the full program, so our legacy starts in December program. Folks graduate in January, all in person. It's about 50 hours, including practicum. And then the full program, 7 months, is about 55% in person. We do intensives every month, and then there's all the practicum. But we do have a virtual pathway for folks if they want to do the full program, and that is all virtual, except for practicum.
Great. All right, thank you.
And Tony, I'm answering questions, and I realize it's marking them as answered. I'm writing answers, so you may miss some of the questions that were asked on accident.
I'm actually not even seeing those. They're getting fed to me through Spencer, so I think she's on top of it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So one question that kind of hits on my personal experience, I went through several trainings before I ever got what I thought was like the most important information I need, which is like what to do when things go wrong. And I think, Diana, your presentation spoke to this towards the end of your slides, but just wanted to ask you guys about that, whether that's included in your training, and what are some of the things that can go wrong, and what are like some interventions and ways to like support people when these things go wrong?
Yeah, I can speak to that just really briefly. So, of course, the foundational training, that's just the didactic piece, 150 hours, is kind of just the very foundation of what it is to do psilocybin facilitation. This is something that really takes many years of experience and practice. And the Colorado model, I think, is a good one, that it's got the didactic, 40 hours of practicum, and then 50 hours of consultation. So it's already multi-tier, but it takes a lot of time, really, with hands-on experience to to get really familiar and comfortable with doing this work. So that said, kind of our foundation is what a typical session is like. And then we also have extensive hours in challenging experiences and dealing with traumatic stress activation or other things that can happen in a session. So and providing some skills for de-escalation strategies for handling some of these adverse, kind of experiences. And also just to clarify, a challenging experience doesn't necessarily mean a bad experience. And in fact, many times it may have high therapeutic value for the participant. But for the facilitator, it takes a high level of discernment and also experience to really gain the skill set to sometimes be able to discern the difference, right? So, what we're providing, I think, in these trainings under the state regulatory model is really kind of just the beginning of that discernment, the ability to have that kind of practice of discernment. But we do incorporate that both in didactics, in role plays, and also in, of course, the hands-on, kind of experiential component of the training so that folks have a really solid handle on what a typical experience is like, what to expect, what, kind of subjective experience the client is having, as well as what it looks like when someone is having an activation of some kind, so, and, we'll in the future, hopefully offer some, not only, obviously the experientials, but we're hoping to have some video of sessions in, to incorporate into the training so folks can see, some examples of how folks are handling these beyond just a role play in the training itself. So right now we're incorporating that into the didactics. So that's just, kind of the tip of the iceberg on this subject, I think.
I'll just echo what Diana mentioned there, that training in those aspects is mandated by both Colorado and Oregon. So any compliant program will, in theory, have material that will cover what to do with a whole host of client outcomes, both challenging and not challenging. So I think all of our programs will definitely address those. And it's unfortunate that some of the programs you went through before, Tony, didn't, because it is a core question that people ask. How do I deal with this? And it's important to know strategies to de-escalate and the other items that Diana mentioned.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we're getting near the time, so I just want to invite all of our panelists. I want to thank you guys again for taking the time today to help Colorado, people who are interested in licensing in Colorado, learn more about the options available to them for licensing or for training and certification, and helping them find the program that might be best for them. I want to invite you guys all to share with Spencer or I any upcoming events like Shannon mentioned, any upcoming events you have where people can learn more about your programs. We'll put that in the description of the video as it's posted and shared on YouTube. And I'm going to thank everybody again for joining us. I want to mention, if you aren't already a member of the Colorado Psychedelic Facilitators Cohort, check out the meetup group at meetup.com/psychedelics. Again, mostly free events where it's just peers who are on the same path as you, sharing what they are learning, sharing what challenges they're having as they're learning how to optimize the mental health benefits of these newly legal plant medicines in Colorado especially. So thank you guys so much for your time. We started right on time, we'll end right on time. And yeah, any closing thoughts from anyone before we let everyone go?
Just thank you for putting this together. It's really, it's a pleasure, and it's good to meet you, Travis and Nate. I don't think we've met before. And also, I think we're just really advising people to I know there's this big sense of rush, everything's happening and enroll now and everything, you're gonna miss out if you don't get this done immediately, you better hurry. And there's just a lot to choose from and a lot to feel into and sit with. And so we're just really encouraging people to take your time, and being on that first wave isn't always the best wave to be on. And sometimes it's the second wave or third wave or sixth wave. And there's no rush in this, because that's not what this work is about. And that's not what healing work is about. That's not what medicine work is about. It's not rushing to get somewhere. And so I just want to throw that out there as our last sentiment, is to really just feel into it and let it all settle, and you know, whatever that deeper rhythm is for you and whatever that path is for you, allowing that to unfold and in the time that it needs. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And on that note, I'll mention that a lot of the members of the cohort are really trying to figure out which programs are right for them. And we'll be doing all we can to collect this information so that we can have some honest kind of comparisons about like, well, people who are more woo might be more suitable for this piece, and people who are a little bit more like science-based might be a little bit more you know, attracted to this training environment. So whatever those kind of like, you know, qualities are that make a program a little bit better suited for one facilitator over another, we're going to just try and make as much of that information available as possible. So we're right at time. I want to thank you guys all again for the time. And again, we'll put as much information as possible down in the comments. But that's it. Thank you all.